sensing this danger. This is the greatest showman! He is floating on air now! He's going to sit it back.
It's the Multicultural AFL Footy Show with Venessa, Harbir and George Gracios.
Hello and welcome to the NEMBC's Multicultural AFL Footy Show. I am Venessa and on tonight's panel we have Harbir and George. Hello guys.
Hello Vanessa.
Hello.
There were certainly a few surprises this week, with at least 3 games being settled by 1 to 2 points in absolute thrillers. And then there is the ongoing form inconsistency at St Kilda, costing the Saints a devastating loss. While Collingwood led all day, lost in the last 5 minutes of their match with Port Adelaide. Wrapping up, the Brisbane Lions won by 28 points against a very ordinary Richmond side. The Carlton Blues fought back in the last quarter to win by 23 points against the Hawks. Geelong at home overran the Gold Coast Suns by 34 points, and a shock as the Adelaide at home scored a 1-point win, handling Melbourne their first defeat for the year. The Western Bulldogs smashed St Kilda by 111 points in a one-side affair, while Fremantle in Perth hung on to beat Sydney by 2 points. The GWS Giants hit back in the last quarter to go past West Coast by 16 points, and Essendon rolled North Melbourne by 72 points. In a thriller at the MCG, Port Adelaide snatched victory from the jaws of defeat by 1 point over a tired Collingwood side that led for 98% of the match. What are your thoughts, Harbir and George, on the last frenetic weekend?
Oh, well, as you mentioned, they were quite close games, and especially the Adelaide-Melbourne are finally the top of the ladder team, undefeated, goes to Adelaide and gets defeated. And we're not taking into account that free kick that was meant to be given or anything like that. But the way Adelaide tackled that game, I think that was superb. And they have a big scalps this season. They've got Geelong at the start, and now they've got the Melbourne. I think they are building up properly, like you know how we say the team is building up, so they're actually showing that now. So the other thing I would say is, and Adelaide coach, he had a plan where he said that he wanted to minimize the effect of Jack Lever at the back and Stephen May at the back by going for the short kicks, and I think that worked pretty well for them.
Yeah, it did, because those two defenders have given Melbourne a lot of drive. They've been the starting point for attacks for the D, so he really did his homework, the coach. Credit to the Adelaide side. They weren't overawed. They tackled and harassed and chased. They did what we call the 1%ers really, really well. And that controversial umpiring decision, I would have paid that. I know the umpires have a very difficult job. I personally would have paid it. But let's take nothing away from Adelaide. It was a well-deserved victory.
Yeah, definitely. And Fremantle, on the other hand side, I think, although we do give them advantage of the home, but when Buddy is working on like that, it's very hard to get a win of Sydney at the moment, and they've done that. The team has sort of stood up, and what a way to do it. The way he was able to finally put an end to his kicking woes and was able to score a winning goal, which mattered the most. And I think that will give him immense confidence in the coming games as well. That will help them. But still they've got that issue, Fremantle, where they're kicking more behinds than the goals. So I think that's going to bite them in this season. But then again, as we mentioned about the build-ups, I think that's the other team going in the right direction with the build-up. Yeah,
well, poor kicking is poor football, Harbir, and they almost kicked themselves out of the match. But again, they did persist, to their credit. They didn't throw the towel in. Sydney Swans, they had their chances, but he did have a quiet day. They can't rely on him every single week. Tom Papley had a relatively quiet one, but they are entitled to have some off days, the Sydney Swans. But there's some still promising signs for both teams moving forward.
I think, Buddy, I think that's probably going to be I think that was a good day to me with his age. And Collingwood, Port Adelaide, they just let it slip. Like as you mentioned in your intro, that 98% of the time they were ahead, and then suddenly they just faltered at the end. But I think it's credit to Port Adelaide, the way they play at MCG and against the home crowd of Collingwood, and with that vigor that they played, and credit to their especially Ruckman, who came up against Brodie Grundy, and nullified sort of his influence in a lot of ways. So I think that probably got the Port Adelaide going as well, and they were always in the contest because of that.
Well, Harbir, Collingwood's defence were fantastic. They kept Port Adelaide scoreless in the first quarter, and it was just a remarkable game where we saw Port Adelaide finally get a goal midway through the second quarter. The problem for Collingwood was, of course, they jumped out of the blocks, but they couldn't score too many more goals. They only scored another 4 goals after quarter time, and of course the week before against Sydney. Again, they jumped out of the blocks. They scored 4 goals in that first quarter, but only scored 1 more goal for the rest of the game. So their scoring ability, their forward line is a real issue. Their defence held up quite well, I thought, considering the pressure they were put under in the second half. And again, controversy with a very, very late umpiring call, or rather a call that wasn't made. Of course, Grundy got pushed over in a ruck contest. The umpire elected to ignore it. That could have swung the game Collingwood's favour if the kick had been paid, but we can't reflect on that anymore. It's only about who won the 4 points.
Yeah, definitely. A lot of experts are pointing to that as well. There is a issue going on with the umpiring decision, MRI and tribunal and everything that's going on. But as a fan, if it's your team, it hurts a lot. That's what I've found in every game. And Brisbane versus Richmond, I think that was a good test, and the way, the ferocity the Brisbane Lions brought, that was awesome, and especially the way how to tackle Martin when he's doing his fend off, that was just awesome. I don't know, I've heard some experts saying that they're probably learning some martial arts or something like that, the way where they chopped his arm aside. But I think it was a great work done on Dusty, and a great win by Brisbane against Richmond.
Definitely.
Yeah, look, Richmond again, they'll be counting the cost of some skill errors. There was an opportunity for Castagna to kick a goal directly in front midway through the third quarter when they were only 2 goals down. He elected to turn around and snap it, and I can't understand why players do that when they're only 20 metres out directly in front. So that was definitely a missed opportunity. Of course, they've had their injury concerns with Cochin and Prestier, Edwards, Bolton, Lane, but we can go on and on about injuries with all particular teams. So Richmond can't use that as an excuse, but it is really starting to bite. Having all of those particular plays out. Again, taking nothing away from Brisbane. They got jumped in the first quarter. Richmond came flying out of the blocks, but Brisbane, to their credit, over the course of the game, were able to reel them in. And in the end, they ran away with a good win, a five-goal win. So that'll give them confidence for the rest of the season.
I think a great win for Carlton. I think they finally got their little bit of a mojo going against a not that good of a side, Hawthorn, I would say, this year, but definitely a win for them.
Yeah, look, Hawthorn did hang in there for 3 quarters, but Carlton's more experienced players took over the match. In the other clash, it was Geelong defeating Gold Coast by 34 points. Again, Geelong were the favourites. They did struggle for perhaps the first 2 and a bit quarters. Gold Coast were only down by 5 points early in the third quarter, but then Geelong just ran away with it.
Yeah. That's what the good teams do anyway. And our team, Bulldogs versus St Kilda, what a game. What a joy to watch. But St Kilda have got their own woes at the moment. I think with Rowan Marshall and others out, I think they really didn't have a chance the way Bulldogs are playing this season.
Well, the concern for St Kilda is that's their 4th loss over 50 points. So not only are they losing on a regular basis, but they're losing by big margins, and that's going to be a cause for concern. I would expect 3 or 4, maybe 5 players to get the axe for their next match. And GWS Giants, they had a good win against West Coast Eagles. Perhaps against the odds, they've had their injury concerns. West Coast struggling with their away form.
Yeah, definitely. That's all we can bring it down to. And Essendon, North Melbourne, there was a good game. But North Melbourne have shown the glimpses in that game, and whether they will be able to hold it on for the next games and go towards the build-up, which they are referring to, we'll see that. We will see how it's coming out. But the way Essendon are going, they're flying at the moment. They're pretty good.
Yeah, they'd be pleased with some of the young players like Andy McGrath and Harrison Jones getting more game time and showing a lot of promise.
Definitely.
Thank you, guys. We'll be back with more footy after this break. Friday Night Footy doesn't get any better than this week's primetime clash from the Titans from Marvel Stadium between the real deal Western Bulldogs and the rampaging Melbourne Demons for top spot on the ladder. Expect this match to be a thriller with a close score line, hard tackling, and a few reports along the way. I know I will be watching for sure. Saturday, the disappointing Magpies take on the might of Geelong at the MCG, and Brisbane at home tackle the GWS Giants, while St Kilda play the bottom of the barrel North Melbourne. What are your thoughts, George, on all
Well,
this?
looking at that first match, Western Bulldogs versus Melbourne, what an exciting clash that will be. Melbourne looking to bounce back from that unexpected defeat to the Adelaide Crows, and of course the Western Bulldogs riding high. Their season has been a fantastic, exciting season, and the Western Bulldogs, Harbir, you'd be really, really excited about the way the players are performing. The injury list is so long, yet their depth is absolutely incredible.
Yeah, definitely. And every player seems to be in form. And I think it's hard for the other teams to concentrate on one player because they've got so many players who are having a good time at the moment. They are in best of their forms at this stage. So it's very hard for any team to tackle Bulldogs at the moment. And the good thing in the last game, which we saw, that they brought in the tackling as well, which you just mentioned in your intro as well. So I think that was the part where Bulldogs were a bit lacking. Other than that, they had all the other avenues covered. But I would say against Lever and Stephen May, I think unless Luke Beveridge can come up with some other plan, it's going to be a hard time for the forwards. So let's see what happens. And it's, as you said, it's going to be a mouth-watering contest.
I mean, equally, Melbourne will need to come up with a plan to quell the impact of Marcus Bontempelli, who's having the season of his life.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, against Petrarca. Let's see what happens.
Wow.
And Collingwood Geelong, that any other day it would have been such a close game at MCG. But I think the way forms are at the moment, Collingwood doesn't really have a good chance against the might of Geelong at the moment. Geelong are flying high at the moment. Their forwards, the way they're gelling together, Cameron's addition, and we can keep on talking about their forwards, Rohan, the way he's coming in, and the support they provided to the Tom Hawkins. I think that's just fantastic. I think it's going to be too much for Collingwood, but with all the push that's going to happen on them, few players might rise to the occasion, and we might see good glimpses, but winning the game, I don't see Collingwood winning that game.
Well, as we've discussed, Harbir, Collingwood need to find a solution up forward. They've been struggling for goals in recent weeks. And Geelong, of course, have a very, very miserly defence. So Nathan Buckley has his work cut out. And, of course, the next clash, we have Brisbane taking on the GWS Giants. Brisbane riding high after that great win over Richmond. You would fancy them again at home. Their form has been really, really solid.
Definitely, and Giants have done good to beat West Coast. They're a good team, although they, as we discussed, they don't travel too well, but still beating them is a big scalp. I think it's going to be a close game though. I think they probably would come up with a few good surprises for Brisbane, but I think Brisbane will come out on top.
Look, I agree. GWS will be without Toby Green, and no Jesse Hogan. He's hurt his calf. Their injury list is quite long at the moment, but certainly they have their work cut out against a really confident Brisbane team.
Yeah, definitely. And St Kilda, North Melbourne, both teams can sniffle that this is our game, this is our game. Let's see, as you mentioned, what does the coach do? How many players he takes out?
He'll swing the axe a bit. There's absolutely no way that Brett Ratton will sit on his hands.
Yeah. Now he mentioned that in his press conference as well. So, but how will the new players will perform? That's anybody's guess at the moment. So let's see who comes on top. I think St Kilda might win this one.
I think they will win. North Melbourne, of course, are still developing their young players and getting some games and experience into them. Harbir, we don't like criticising the umpires, but they've been in the spotlight again over some contentious decisions. We saw a dangerous act of play where Mumford spear tackled his opponent into the ground. It could have seriously hurt him. The player could have ended up with a broken neck, become a quadriplegic. Those sorts of incidents have to be stamped out, yet the umpires let that go.
Yeah, there has, as I mentioned a little bit before, there has been a lot of talk about the umpiring and the MRI and tribunal, even their connection as well. And basically, umpires we all understand it's a very hard job to do adjudication at that game, and because it flows so fast, and then there is so many angles. Like they can only make a decision from the angle they are looking at. But this holding the ball and few of these issues which the coaches have brought up, and that has actually divided few people. And we've seen Alistair Clarkson speaking against Luke Beveridge as well, that he's got a different view from him, whereas he goes with the Damien Hardwick view that there should be no prior or side.
Yeah, get rid of prior opportunity, Harbir.
So there's a lot of talk that's going on at the moment, and I think we've been discussing this for a while now, that AFL has been introducing new rules every year, and it's very hard for the umpires as well. But at the moment, when you got your whole season at stake, that's when the fans feel it. That's when the teams feel it. So they need to come up with something. Otherwise, this is getting sort of out of hand at the moment, and people are sort of getting frustrated with all these decisions. Coaches need to come on one page and just go to the root of this problem and solve it somehow.
Yeah, I'm with Damien Hardwick on that particular issue of getting rid of the prior opportunity. It'll help get the game flowing and moving faster. As we've said, that's the ultimate aim for the AFL, to have the game move a lot faster and quicker and create more scoring opportunities.
Yeah, definitely. That's it.
Thank you for your comments, guys. There are so many important games this week, but for now, we are off to a break. See you on the other side. We continue with our preview of Round 11 with the Saturday night games. West Coast taking on Essendon over in Perth, and the Gold Coast play host to Hawthorn. And on Sunday, Richmond at the MCG play the giant killer Adelaide Crows. Sydney and Carlton go head-to-head on the small SCG, and to finish the round off, Port Adelaide at Adelaide play Fremantle, and this game might also be very tight. So I expect some surprises. Do you expect surprises, Javier?
Yeah, definitely. With the West Coast, I think we know that that's their fortress at the moment, and the way they play at Optus Stadium. But I think Essendon, although their position on the ladder might not reflect that much, but I believe still they will come up with a good challenge for them, and it's going to be a close game as well. I think in the end, West Coast might come on the top, but I believe this is going to be a close match as far as I think of it. And other games with the Gold Coast and Hawthorn, even that has the potential to be a very close one as well.
Yeah, the Hawks really struggling at the moment. They've only won the 2 games. I don't expect them to win too many more. Their forwards just aren't clicking. They can't score goals. Their defence is being overwhelmed. Even their midfielders have been struggling at times. Mitchell Shaw, he returned to his best form against Carlton, amassing 44 disposals, but it's basically him, Jago O'Meara, Luke Shields, trying to keep the side in contests. If you're not winning the midfield battles, your forward lines are basically going to be starved of opportunities. Gold Coast, on the other hand, they're full of run. They're an exciting team to watch, full of youth and excitement. So I don't know if the conditions are going to neutralise their pace. It'll be a hot, humid day over there. So whether that suits Hawthorn, it remains to be seen. But on paper, at least, Gold Coast appear to be the favourites.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll probably think Hawthorn might topple Gold Coast at that one. And Richmond Adelaide, I think that, again, Richmond at MCG, with all those injuries coming up at... I wouldn't say, because with all those injuries, I think they are feeling the pressure at the moment. And on the other side, I would say Adelaide, I think this is the team on the rise at the moment, and they will be jubilant with the result that they had. So I think they're going to put up a very good fight to Richmond, and they will believe in themselves that they can win this. And Tex Walker, I believe they might be able to reduce his effect on the team, though. Reason being, they've got a good defense setup against him. But overall, I believe it's going to be a very good game. But Richmond might still come on top because it's MCG and they just know that ground too well.
Look, I would expect Richmond to have a comfortable win. They're smarting from that defeat up in Brisbane. Their form at the MCG has been a little bit patchy this season, but still they should be too strong for Adelaide. Sure, Adelaide will have confidence after that remarkable win over table-topping Melbourne, so they'll have that belief, but I still think Richmond will have too much skill and poise and they won't lose 2 in a row.
Yeah, agreed. And then Sydney Carlton, I think Carlton need to put up a show. The way they're doing at the moment, I think it's been up and down. And Sydney, they had a very narrow loss against Fremantle. I think Buddy would be roaring to go, and I think they might come out very harsh on Carlton. And I believe Sydney's going to come on top in that. But Carlton should come up with a very good show.
So you're predicting Carlton to upset Sydney in Sydney?
No, I wouldn't be saying that. So, but I'm definitely saying that Carlton should put up a good show, because I can't say they will, because this year Carlton's been going up and down. So I don't know what will happen, whether they will be able to maintain that consistency for 4 quarters as well, which they've been lacking so far, where they had the lead and they just squandered that lead to the other teams. So I don't see them winning against Sydney though.
Well, even in their win against Hawthorn, sure, it was a regulation win, but early on they did struggle and Hawthorn persisted. Hawthorn got to within half a kick late in the third quarter. There were some skill errors by Hawthorn that allowed Carlton to kick a few quick goals and extend the lead. So they can't afford to turn the ball over like they did against Hawthorn, because the Swans will punish them. Tom Papley has been in terrific form all year, and of course Sydney have that young brigade with the likes of Braden Campbell and Errol Goulden. So they really need to be on their mettle, Carlton. They need to get that consistency, otherwise they're going to fall out of touch with the 8. And I think it is a danger game. And Port Adelaide, Fremantle, Port Adelaide relieved to beat Collingwood, of course. You have to almost feel sorry for Collingwood, almost. I know that Collingwood have a huge supporter group and they like to have that us against them mentality, and they will actually need that for their games. But Fremantle will need to come into their match with a similar mindset. They have to be brave and not be intimidated by the crowd and really serve it up to Port Adelaide.
Yeah. I think although it's in Adelaide, so we have to give advantage to Port Adelaide on this one, and still they've got a good form going on this season, so they will come on top. But Fremantle will definitely pose a great threat to that team at the moment.
Well, interestingly, Port Adelaide, they did lose to the Bulldogs 2 weeks ago, and they learnt a lot of lessons from that. They're not going to underestimate Fremantle by any stretch of the imagination. So I would expect them to come out firing from the start.
Thank you guys for your comments. And that brings me to my footy tip selections, and this week I'm going for Western Bulldogs, Geelong, Brisbane Lions, St Kilda, West Coast, Hawthorn, Richmond, Sydney and Port Adelaide. That is all we have time for this week. You can also watch us in Adelaide on Channel 44 Friday evenings, on Aurora Foxtel TV at midday Saturday, and on the NEMBC YouTube. I am Venessa.
I'm Harbir.
And I'm George Gracias.
Thank you and see you next week.